Zara's phone buzzed again, the harsh vibration sending a jolt of anxiety through her chest. She looked down at the screen, her heart pounding in her throat. Ji-hun! Again! The fear that gripped her was instantaneous. He had already made it clear that there was no running. That message, that call, had been a warning. And now, she had no choice but to answer. Every time she thought about escaping, the grip of his power tightened. He was always one step ahead of her. She swiped the screen, pressing the phone to her ear. Hello? Zara. Ji-hun's voice was smooth, calculated, like he knew exactly how to make her feel small, insignificant. I've been thinking about you. She swallowed hard. The last time she had seen him, he had invaded her space with ease, making her feel like she had no agency. His words rang in her ears. You're mine now. Every part of her screamed to resist, to fight back, but she didn't know how. Ji-hun, Zara said, forcing herself to sound calm. I don't want anything to do with you. He chuckled, the sound rich with amusement. You don't get to decide that, Zara. You're already too involved. Her grip on the phone tightened. I don't want to be part of whatever world you're pulling me into. I'm just trying to help my uncle. Ji-hun's voice dropped, taking on a darker edge. Your uncle isn't the one I'm interested in. You are. Zara recoiled, the words hitting her like a slap. I'm not a pawn in your game. You don't have a choice, he replied almost gently, but I can make it easy for you if you come to me willingly. Come to my office tonight. We need to talk. The command in his voice was unmistakable, and for a moment, Zara felt the weight of her helplessness. She had nowhere else to turn. I'll be waiting, Ji-hun added before the line went dead. Zara stood there for a long moment, her thoughts a chaotic mess. She didn't want to go to him, didn't want to play his game anymore. But what choice did she have? The threat to her uncle's health was real. If she didn't comply, he would use him as leverage. And deep down, Zara knew that if she resisted, she might lose everything. Her heart pounded in her chest as she tried to steady her breath. She couldn't ignore him. Not anymore. What do you think Zara should do? Should she confront Ji-hun or find a way out of this mess? Comment below with your thoughts and let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with Zara's journey. Things are about to get even more intense. Zara stood in front of the mirror for what felt like an eternity, trying to calm the storm inside her. Her reflection stared back at her, but the woman in the glass seemed like a stranger. She didn't recognize the person she had become since that night in the bathroom. The fear, the anxiety, it had all been too much. The weight of the decision pressed down on her shoulders, suffocating her. But what choice did she have? She glanced at the clock. It was already late, and Ji-hun's office was downtown, far from the safe little apartment she'd managed to carve out for herself. The thought of going to him made her stomach churn. She didn't want to play into his hands, to be part of his world, but if she didn't, there was no telling what he would do to her uncle. Her phone buzzed again, but this time, it was a message. She opened it without thinking. I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight. Don't keep me waiting. Ji-hun. The coldness of the message sent a shiver down her spine. Her hand shook as she placed the phone back down. She didn't have much time. She had to go. The streets of Seoul felt different as Zara walked through them. The lights seemed dimmer, the air colder. It was as though the city itself was warning her. She passed people on the sidewalks, their conversations muffled by her thoughts. She felt disconnected from everything, like a spectator to her own life. When she reached Ji-hun's building, the lobby was sleek and sterile. She checked in at the front desk, trying to mask the tremor in her voice when the receptionist asked her name. Zara didn't know why she was so nervous. She'd been to fancy places before, but tonight felt different. This wasn't about a night out. This was about survival. The elevator ride up was silent, the soft hum of the machinery filling the empty space. As the doors opened, Zara stepped out into a hallway lined with dark wood and glass. Her breath caught in her throat as she walked down the corridor, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Each step seemed to bring her closer to something she couldn't escape. She reached Jihyun's door, and before she could knock it opened, he was standing there, tall and imposing, his dark eyes fixed on her. The same look he had given her in the bathroom, the one that made her feel small, was there again. It was as though he was waiting for her to make a mistake, to fall into his control. "Zara," he said, his voice soft but dangerous. "I'm glad you could make it." She swallowed hard. "Let's just get this over with." Jihyun stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. She hesitated, but then walked in, her heart pounding. The room was dimly lit, with modern furniture and a view of the city skyline. It was cold, impersonal, and felt like a cage. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had just walked into the lion's den. As she stepped inside, Jihyun closed the door behind her. "I've been waiting for you," he said, his tone smooth, almost affectionate, but Zara could hear the underlying threat in his words. She turned to face him, forcing herself to stand tall, despite the tremor in her body. "What do you want from me?" Jihyun smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I want you to understand your place. You're a part of this world now. There's no going back." Zara clenched her fists, trying to steady herself. "I don't belong here, and I don't want any part of this." Jihyun's smile widened. He walked slowly toward her, his presence overwhelming. "It's not about what you want anymore, Zara. You're already mine, and I'm going to make sure you learn that." Zara took a step back, her heart pounding. "I'm not yours. You don't control me." He reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch sending an electric shock through her. "You don't get to decide that. I control everything. Even you." The weight of his words settled over her like a fog. She could feel the control he had over her, the power he wielded with every word, every glance. He was right. She had already fallen into his trap. Jihyun's smile faded, his gaze sharpening as he stepped closer. "You're more than just a pawn, Zara. I'll make sure you understand your place soon enough. But for now, we have something to discuss." Zara's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't stay in this room with him, couldn't let him pull her deeper into his world. She was suffocating, drowning in the reality of what she had become. She tried to push him away, but Jihyun grabbed her wrist, his grip like iron. "You think you can walk away from me?" he asked, his voice low, dangerous. "You're not going anywhere." Zara's eyes widened with panic. This was it. This was the moment she had feared. She couldn't move. She couldn't escape. His control was absolute. Jihyun pulled her toward him, his voice now a whisper in her ear. "You belong to me now. Don't forget that." Things are getting worse for Zara. What will she do next? Is there a way out, or is she stuck in Jihyun's world forever? Drop a comment below with your thoughts, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with Zara's story. Zara stood in the center of Jihyun's office, frozen by the weight of his presence. The tension in the room was thick, and she could feel every second stretching into eternity as Jihyun's cold gaze never left hers. His grip on her wrist tightened just enough to remind her who was in control, but it wasn't the physical hold that made her feel trapped. It was the quiet dominance in the way he looked at her. His eyes weren't just watching, they were studying, dissecting her, searching for weaknesses. "I didn't come here for a lesson in control," Zara said, her voice shaking but defiant. She tried to pull her wrist free, but Jihyun's grip didn't waver. His lips curled into a slight smile, almost as if he were amused by her resistance. "Don't worry," he said softly, almost as if reassuring her. "This isn't a lesson. This is your reality now. You don't get to make the rules anymore. Zara's breath hitched. The sting of his words cut deeper than she cared to admit. She wanted to scream, to demand that he let her go, but something in her gut told her it wouldn't matter. He could have her, could take everything she was, and there was nothing she could do to stop him. She was already ensnared in his web. "You can't keep me here," Zara said, summoning whatever courage she could. "I'm not your property." Ji-hun tilted his head slightly, his gaze flickering with something unreadable. "You're not property, Zara. Not yet, at least. But don't make the mistake of thinking you're free to walk away." His words hung in the air like a promise, or a threat. Zara didn't know which one was worse. The longer she stayed in his presence, the more she felt herself being pulled into the abyss he controlled. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think clearly. It was like she was drowning in a world that wasn't hers, but one that Ji-hun had forced her into. Ji-hun finally released her wrist, his touch lingering for a moment longer than necessary. He stepped back, surveying her with an almost clinical detachment. "You came here to help your uncle, right?" Zara froze. The mention of her uncle, Pastor Isaac, was enough to jar her from her stupor. She didn't want to show him any weakness, but her mind immediately flashed to the sickly man who had raised her. The man who depended on her for everything. Her mission had been simple: help her uncle, send money home, and maybe, just maybe, find a better life for both of them. She tried to swallow the lump in her throat. "Yes, I'm here for him, for his medical bills, that's all." Ji-hun stepped closer, and Zara instinctively took a step back, bumping into the desk behind her. He smiled, a thin, dangerous smile that made her insides churn. "Don't lie to me, Zara. You've been a part of something much bigger than you realize. The Kang family doesn't give charity. We don't do things for free." She could hear the veiled threat in his words, the power he wielded over her uncle. Her stomach twisted as the reality hit her again. She was stuck, bound by promises she hadn't even fully understood. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered. But it was too late. Her words seemed weak in comparison to the monster standing in front of her. Ji-hun had already made his move. She was in too deep now to turn back. Ji-hun's eyes softened for just a moment before hardening again. "No one does, Zara. No one ever asks for the life we give them." Zara's pulse quickened as Ji-hun took another step forward, closing the gap between them. She could feel his presence suffocating her, the overwhelming sense that she was losing herself to him, to his world. She could barely breathe. "You're not leaving this place without my permission," he said, his voice dark, filled with authority. "You'll learn to accept that, because when you fight it, you only make it worse for yourself." Zara wanted to shout, to throw something at him, but all she could do was stand there, rooted in place. She didn't want to be part of his world. She didn't want to be another victim of his family's cold, calculating empire. But the more she fought him, the tighter his hold became. "I'll never accept it," Zara spat, the words tasting bitter in her mouth. Ji-hun's smile returned, but it was a smile full of promise. "You will, Zara, in time. You'll learn that this world is the only one that matters, and you'll learn to enjoy it." The words sent a chill through Zara. She wanted to fight back, to break free, but the crushing weight of her situation made her feel powerless. She had no choice. She couldn't escape him. Ji-hun turned toward his desk, picking up a file and flipping it open casually. "I'll make sure your uncle gets the best care, Zara. But understand this, your loyalty is the price. Your soul is the cost." Her heart dropped into her stomach. She had already sold herself, whether she liked it or not. And now she was trapped in his world. The weight of Ji-hun's control was too much to bear, and for the first time, Zara truly understood what he had meant by, "You're mine now." Zara's mind raced as Jihan sat back in his chair, his demeanor calm and assured, as though the conversation had been nothing more than a formality. Her world, her sense of control, had just shattered. There was no escape now. Jihan didn't seem to notice her inner turmoil. He was busy flipping through papers in his office, as though nothing had happened. But Zara knew better. She knew that nothing was ever simple with him. "Let's be clear," Jihan said suddenly, without looking up from the papers. "I don't care about your morals, your faith, or your dreams. You'll do what I tell you, and you'll enjoy it. If not for me, then for the life I'm going to give you." Zara felt her throat tighten. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but her voice was caught in her chest, like a heavy weight she couldn't lift. She was at his mercy. Jihan finally looked up, meeting her eyes with that same cold, calculating gaze. "It's simple, Zara. You work with me, and I take care of your uncle. You work for me, and I ensure your safety. But you defy me, and you'll regret it. That's how the world works now. That's how I work." Zara clenched her fists at her sides. She had been brought to this place, cornered into a life she didn't want. And there was no way out, no one to turn to. She was trapped in a cage built by Jihan and his family's empire, and there was nothing she could do but obey. But that didn't mean she had to like it. Zara's world is getting darker, and the stakes are higher than ever. Will she find a way to break free, or is she too far gone? Let us know what you think in the comments section. Zara stood there, her breath shallow as Jihan's words swirled around her, suffocating her. The air in the office felt thick with unspoken promises, dark promises she didn't want to keep. She had come here to speak to him, to figure out a way out of this mess. But now, standing in his office, the walls seemed to close in tighter than ever before. Jihan leaned back in his chair, casually flipping through the papers on his desk. The disinterest in his movements only made her more uncomfortable. He had everything under control, like a puppeteer with strings wrapped around every part of her life. And right now, she was the puppet, the one whose movements were dictated by his whims. Zara swallowed hard, trying to calm the rapid beating of her heart. "I didn't come here to be a pawn in your game, Jihan. I came here to protect my uncle." Jihan raised an eyebrow, his lips curling into that dangerously amused smile. "You've been in this game for a while, Zara. You just didn't realize it until now." Her chest tightened. It was true. Since the moment she'd walked into that bathroom, her life had changed. Jihan had already marked her, and now there was no way out. "I don't want to be a part of your world," Zara said, more firmly this time, trying to find the strength she thought she had lost. "I just want to help my uncle." "Your uncle," Jihan echoed, "is already a part of my world." "Do you really think he can survive without the money I've been giving him?" Zara's eyes widened in disbelief. "You've been funding his medical care?" Jihan leaned forward, his expression changing from amusement to something darker. "Not just funding. I've been making sure he's taken care of. He's part of the deal, Zara. Your uncle, the church, everything is tied to the Kangs now. You can't escape that, and neither can he." Zara felt the weight of his words pressing down on her, suffocating her like a vice. Her uncle's health, his well-being, had been a bargaining chip, an agreement she hadn't even known she was making. And now, Jihan was reminding her of the price she was paying. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "I won't be part of this. I didn't agree to any of it." Jihan's smile didn't fade, but his eyes turned cold. "It doesn't matter what you agree to, Zara. What matters is that you're already in it. You're already mine." Her heart raced. She wanted to lash out, to scream at him, to tell him that she wasn't anyone's to own. But in that moment, she realized something. He had already taken so much from her. Her fear, her peace, her control. "Don't fool yourself," Ji-hun continued, his voice smooth but heavy with an underlying threat. The more you resist, the more you lose. This isn't a choice anymore. This is your life. Zara clenched her fists at her sides. He was right. Every move she had made, every choice she thought she still had, was slipping through her fingers like sand. The more she fought it, the more she felt like she was drowning. I didn't want any of this, Zara whispered, barely able to speak. I just wanted to help. And that's exactly why I'm giving you a chance, Ji-hun said, his voice suddenly softer, like a snake luring its prey. I'm giving you a chance to work with me, to be a part of something bigger. You don't have to like it, Zara. You just have to accept it. Zara's mind spun. There had to be another way. She couldn't just fall into this life, couldn't let him control her. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized how hopeless it all seemed. She had already been dragged into his world, and there was no escaping it. Why are you doing this? Zara asked, her voice breaking. Why me? Ji-hun stood up from his desk and walked toward her, closing the distance between them. His presence was overpowering, like a storm on the horizon, impossible to ignore. He reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch sending a shiver down her spine. Because, Zara, he said, his voice low and almost tender, you have something I need. You have something no one else has. Zara couldn't move. Her body was frozen, trapped in his gaze. What do you mean? She asked, barely able to whisper. Ji-hun smiled, a glint of something dangerous flashing in his eyes. You have the ability to make people believe. You have the strength to build an empire, and that is exactly why you'll be useful to me. Zara recoiled, but Ji-hun was too close. He reached for her gently but firmly and turned her to face him. The distance between them seemed to shrink, the air thick with tension. I don't want to be useful to you, Zara said, her voice shaking, but the words were sharp, defiant. Ji-hun's smile faded. It's not about what you want. It's about what's already happening. The moment you walked into the wrong bathroom, your life changed. And whether you like it or not, Zara, I'm the one who decides what happens next. She wanted to push him away, to fight him. But something about his cold, calculating demeanor made her hesitate. The way he spoke, so sure of himself, so certain that he had control over everything, made her feel like she was powerless. You'll learn to accept it, Ji-hun said, his voice soft like he was telling her a secret. And when you do, you'll find that this life isn't so bad. Zara felt a cold shiver run down her spine as he stepped back, giving her space for the first time since she had entered his office. She stood there, her breath shallow, trying to process everything that had just happened. How had it come to this? How had she gone from being a girl trying to help her uncle to a pawn in Ji-hun's world? Ji-hun moved away from her, walking back to his desk with that same confident, calculated stride. He sat down, flipping through more papers like he had all the time in the world. Zara felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, the ground beneath her slipping away with every passing second. She turned to leave, her mind racing. But just as her hand touched the doorknob, Ji-hun's voice stopped her. Remember, Zara, he called out. This is your choice. You can fight it, or you can embrace it. But either way, you're already mine. The door slammed shut behind her as she stepped into the hallway, her legs weak, her mind a blur. She had no idea what the future held. But she knew one thing for sure. She was no longer in control. Her heart raced as she made her way back to the elevator. She had done it. She had survived the meeting with Ji-hun. But what would be left of her after? As the elevator doors closed, Zara's phone buzzed again, the familiar sound making her flinch. She hesitated for a moment before she checked it. It was a message from her uncle. Zara, be careful. I don't trust the Kangs. They are dangerous. Zara closed her eyes. feeling the weight of her uncle's warning. But it was too late. She had already crossed the line. Zara's legs were unsteady as she left Jihoon's office, each step feeling heavier than the last. The building around her seemed to close in, as if the walls were shrinking, pushing her closer to the trap she could feel tightening around her. She had survived the meeting. Barely. But what had she gained? The thought of her uncle's medical bills and his fragile health had brought her here, but now it felt like the cost of his care might be her very soul. Her phone buzzed again, a message from Lily. Zara hesitated before opening it. Her fingers trembled as she read the simple but urgent text. "You need to get out. It's worse than I told you. Trust no one, not even your uncle." Zara's stomach twisted in knots. She had already known that things were worse than she could handle, but hearing it from Lily made the weight of the situation even more real. She closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. What was she supposed to do now? She couldn't leave her uncle without help, but being tied to Jihoon and his family wasn't the way she wanted to go. Don't trust anyone. The words felt like a warning that cut deep into her chest. How had things gotten this far? She had walked into a nightclub looking for a job, and now here she was, caught in the web of the Kang family, unable to escape. Her phone buzzed again, this time a call from her uncle. She took a moment to steady her breathing before answering. "Zara," Pastor Isaac's voice was strained. "I heard some things. I'm worried. Are you okay?" Zara stood still in the hallway, her mind racing. She wanted to lie to him, tell him everything was fine, that there was nothing to worry about. But she couldn't. She couldn't lie to him. He had already done so much for her, had already given up so much. "I'm fine," she lied, her voice coming out weak. "You're sure? I've heard rumors about the Kang family. Be careful. I don't trust them. They have too much power." "You need to be careful who you trust, Zara." Zara's heart sank. Her uncle was already warning her, trying to protect her from a world he didn't understand, a world that had already swallowed her whole. "I know, Uncle. I'll be careful," she said, forcing her voice to sound convincing. "I promise." She hung up quickly, feeling a wave of guilt wash over her. She didn't want to drag him deeper into this mess, but she already had. He was tied to the Kangs now, whether she wanted him to be or not. Her phone buzzed once more, the screen flashing with a new message. It was from Jihoon. "I hope you learned something today. I'll see you soon. Remember, I'm always watching." Zara's blood ran cold as she stared at the screen. The finality in his words felt like a noose around her neck, suffocating her with every passing second. She wanted to throw her phone across the room. She wanted to scream, to break free from the chains that had been wrapped around her the moment she walked into the wrong bathroom. But she couldn't. Not now. Not while her uncle was depending on her. She exhaled slowly, trying to calm her racing heart. It was clear that Jihoon had no intention of letting her go. He was right. She had walked into his world. And now she was his. She couldn't escape that, not unless she wanted to put her uncle's life at risk. But, deep down, something inside her rebelled. She wasn't going to let Jihoon control her, wasn't going to let him win, not without a fight. The elevator ride down felt like an eternity. Zara's fingers gripped the metal railing as the small cabin descended, each floor marked by the harsh ding that reverberated through her bones. She was trapped, she knew that now. But as the doors opened and she stepped back into the chaotic streets of Seoul, the weight of her situation hung over her like a shadow. She stepped out onto the sidewalk, her breath coming in shallow bursts as the noise of the city drowned out everything else. The streets were full of people, yet Zara felt more isolated than ever. There was no one she could trust, no one who could help her. She was alone in a city that felt both too big and too small, a place where she could disappear into the crowd or be swallowed whole by the shadows. Ji-hun had made it clear that he was watching her. And worse, he controlled everything. She didn't know where to go, what to do next. All her instincts told her to run, to get as far away from Ji-hun and the Kang family as possible. But the reality was that she didn't have that luxury. Her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Lily. "They're watching you. You're not alone, but you're not safe either. Stay under the radar. We'll talk soon." Zara's fingers hovered over the screen, her mind reeling. She was barely holding it together, barely able to breathe. And now this. She didn't know who to trust, didn't know what to believe. Was Lily really trying to help? Or was she just another piece in this dangerous game? She wanted to respond, to ask questions, to beg for answers. But the constant fear of being watched kept her from doing so. She needed to lay low, needed to stay out of Ji-hun's radar for as long as possible. But how? How could she possibly keep a low profile when her life had already been exposed? With a deep sigh, Zara shoved her phone back into her bag. She walked the streets aimlessly, trying to clear her head, but no matter how far she went, Ji-hun's shadow lingered over her. What do you think Zara will do next? Can she trust Lily, or is there a hidden agenda? Should she fight back against Ji-hun? Or is it too late? Hours passed before Zara finally found herself back at her apartment. Her mind was clouded with thoughts of Ji-hun, of her uncle, of everything that had been taken from her. She had come here with hope. Now, that hope seemed like a distant memory. She reached for the door to her apartment, but as her fingers touched the handle, the door creaked open. Her breath caught in her throat. Standing in the doorway was none other than Ji-hun. Zara's heart stopped. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. How had he gotten in? How was he here? Ji-hun's gaze swept over her, his eyes cold and piercing. "I told you I was always watching," he said, his voice low and controlled. Zara stepped back, her pulse pounding in her ears. How are you here?" Ji-hun stepped forward, his smile widening. "I'm not surprised you're scared, Zara. You should be. You don't know how deep you are in this world, but I'm happy to show you." Zara felt her legs tremble. She backed away, but the door slammed shut behind her, trapping her in her own home with him. "I told you," Ji-hun continued, his voice dripping with authority. "You're not leaving, not without me." Zara's heart slammed against her ribs as Ji-hun stepped into her apartment, his presence so overwhelming it felt like the walls were closing in around her. She instinctively backed away, but the cold, smooth voice that followed her made it clear there was nowhere to hide. "Don't worry, Zara," Ji-hun said, his tone almost too calm, too confident. "I won't bite." He took a slow step toward her, the space between them closing, and yet every inch felt like an eternity. "Not yet, at least." Zara wanted to shout, to scream, to demand he leave, but her body betrayed her. Her feet stayed glued to the floor. He was right. She wasn't free. She hadn't been free for a long time. The thought hit her like a punch to the gut, and she hated herself for it. "What do you want?" she managed to choke out, her voice barely audible, but the defiance was there, deep inside. She wasn't going to let him break her, not without a fight. Ji-hun smiled, that chilling smile that made her feel small. He leaned in closer, the distance between them almost unbearable. Zara could feel his warmth, smell his cologne, a scent that seemed too familiar for comfort. "Do you really need to ask, Zara?" He replied softly, his gaze never leaving hers. "You're already mine, but it seems like you're not ready to accept that." Her mind spun. She wanted to slap him, to run, to tear away from everything he was imposing on her. But the truth was clear. She was in too deep. Every step she had taken in this game had led her straight into his grasp. There was no walking away from it now. Jihyun reached out, his hand brushing her cheek in a gentle, almost tender motion. Zara flinched, but the action was deliberate. He wasn't here to harm her physically. Not yet. His power wasn't in force. It was in his manipulation, his control. And that scared her more than any threat of violence ever could. "I told you before," Jihyun continued, his voice low and intimate. "You're not just here because of your uncle. You're here because I saw something in you, something I need." Zara could feel her breath hitch in her throat. She had heard the rumors about the power the Kangs had, how they never did anything without a purpose. But this was something else entirely. She wasn't just a pawn. He wanted something from her, something more than just obedience. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, her body still frozen in place. Jihyun's smile grew wider, more dangerous. "I want your loyalty, Zara. I want your trust. And once you give me that, everything else will fall into place." Her chest tightened as she fought to stay calm. She wanted to scream again, to deny everything he was saying, but the words didn't come. She had already given up too much. She had already made too many compromises for the sake of survival. And now it felt like Jihyun was offering her the only way out. But it wasn't a way out at all. It was a deeper trap. "You want me to be loyal to you," Zara said, the realization dawning on her. She took a step back, trying to put distance between them. "And what happens if I refuse?" Jihyun's gaze turned colder. "You won't refuse. You don't have a choice." The finality of his words hit Zara like a slap to the face. There it was. No more bargaining, no more pretending she had control. She had already made her choice by stepping into his world. And now there was no turning back. Jihyun stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "If you think you can run, think again. I'll find you. You'll always be mine. Zara, that's the price you pay." She felt a chill crawl up her spine. His words weren't a threat. They were a promise. Zara's mind raced. She was trapped. There was no way out, no way to escape this web he had woven around her. She was in too deep, and as much as she wanted to fight, a part of her knew that she didn't have the strength anymore. Her uncle's health, Jihyun's control, everything was connected, and she was the link. "I'll do what you want," Zara said through gritted teeth, barely able to get the words out. She hated herself for saying it, but what else could she do? Her uncle's life was at stake, and this was the only way she could protect him. Jihyun's smile softened, as though he had expected this answer all along. "I knew you'd come around, but remember, Zara," he added, his voice low and steady. "You're mine now. And nothing in this world will ever change that." Zara is trapped. But can she ever truly accept the life Jihyun has planned for her? Or is there a way to break free? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with the next chapter in this intense, thrilling journey. You won't want to miss what happens next. Jihyun's words hung in the air, and Zara felt a cold emptiness settle deep inside her. Her body wanted to collapse, but she couldn't. She had to keep it together, not just for herself, but for her uncle who was lying helplessly at home, depending on her. Jihyun took a step back, his gaze no less intense. "I'll make sure you understand your place in time, Zara, but for now you need to rest. Tomorrow is going to be interesting." Zara didn't move. The only thing she could focus on was the cold, hollow feeling in her chest. Tomorrow would come, and Jihyun would still be in control. He would never let go of his hold on her. The truth hit her harder than anything he had said. She was already too far gone. Without another word, Jihan turned and walked out of the apartment, leaving Zara standing there alone with her thoughts. The door clicked shut behind him, but the silence that followed was deafening. Zara sank to the floor, her back against the wall. She buried her face in her hands, letting the tears fall. She had made a promise to herself that she would survive, that she would get her uncle the help he needed, but now she wasn't sure who she was anymore. She wasn't the same girl who had come to Seoul full of hope and dreams. Now she was just a pawn in Jihan's game. And as much as she hated it, she didn't know how much longer she could keep pretending to be strong. Jihan's world had swallowed her whole, and she had no idea how to get out. This is just the beginning for Zara. Will she find a way to reclaim her life, or is she too far gone? Zara looked around her small apartment, her heart heavy with everything she had just agreed to. She was in Jihan's world now. The price of her uncle's care was her soul, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't escape that fact. She closed her eyes, praying for some kind of way out, but deep down, she knew the only way out was through Jihan's world. And that world? That world was far darker than she could ever have imagined. Tomorrow, everything would change. What will Zara do next? Can she take control of her life again, or is she already too far gone? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.